Hello, welcome to Ask Ashley Live. I'm here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. I'm jumping between two cameras, so if you see my eyes moving back and forth, that's why. I'm excited to be here today. I'm going to share a little bit about my story, how I got started as a mental health coach, how I got involved in life coaching, and kind of the impact that it's had on me as a mom, as a human, and the impact that it's had on my kids. I'm really excited to share this today because in a couple weeks, I'm opening up the doors to my signature program, the Mentally Strong Mom Method. And this story provides the background information of how that got started. So, in case you're just joining us, welcome. I'm Ashley Jangbro. I'm a mental health coach, a life coach. I work with moms whose kids are struggling, with mental health or any way you want to word that, with anxiety, with depression, with any of the things that we would think of as a mental health struggle. And so, I wanted to share about how I got started doing that. If you are listening and you're interested in jumping in on the call, if you have any questions, this is designed to be a call-in show. So you can use the link that is in the comments of the video and you can jump in. Once you click that link, you'll have an opportunity to check your mic, check your camera, see how you look, and then you can jump in. If you're watching on Instagram, that is not possible. So you have to hop over to my YouTube channel, which is ashley.tube, and then you can use the link in the description of the video to jump in there. So if you're interested in doing that, do so. Otherwise, you can just comment on either Instagram, on YouTube, or Facebook, and I will see those comments and I can answer them on the call. So in that way, you can participate live, even if you don't want to be on camera. But I just wanted to share a little bit about the Mentally Strong Mom Method, how it got started, and the impact that it's had. I'm currently running the beta program, so we have a group going through the program right now, and how that's impacted their lives, and then how what I've put together impacted the life of my own family. So my story starts a long time ago, way back when, several years ago, when I received a phone call from my daughter's school counselor letting me know that she was struggling. At the time, she was struggling with suicidal thoughts. And I have shared in videos previously that this was extraordinarily jarring for me, as it would be for any mom who received that phone call. I worked at their school at the time, part-time. So the school counselor gave me a call. She knew me and she said, "Hey, Ashley, I need you to come in. We need to talk." And so there was a lot of other times where I was able just to run upstairs to where the school counselor's office was. But that day I wasn't at the school. So I came in and we started talking about this. And moms, if you've ever had this experience where either your child has shared with you that they're having those thoughts, or a counselor has, or another parent has, it's extremely jarring. It's a very emotional experience. I was immediately barraged with emotions of my own, with fear and with guilt and with questions about what next. And it was terrifying. And now I talk to my daughter about these thoughts all the time. We talk about how having thoughts of having those types of thoughts are just can be a normal part of a human experience. And we discuss them. I ask her all the time if she's having those thoughts. I ask all my children all the time if they're having those thoughts. I ask other people in my life if they're having those thoughts. But at the time, I did not have the skill set I needed to address the issue. So when I got that phone call, as I said, it was a time where it was easy for me to become caught up in my own emotions. And I started having these thoughts like, how on earth am I supposed to help my child when I'm such a mess emotionally about her struggles? I mean, I had my own issues as well, but then my emotions about her struggles became front and center in my mind. And I think that that's a real danger. This is something that in the Mentally Strong Moms Method, we talk about a lot, is that the danger in trying to be a support for our kids is that their struggles create emotions in us. And if we don't know how to address those emotions, if we don't know how to deal with them, then it's more difficult to be the support that our kids need when they're having mental health struggles. So I was in that situation, and it began years-long process of trying to address my daughter's mental health struggles. These are similar things to what I struggled when I was a teenager, to what I struggled with when I was a teenager. And I thought that I knew what to do. I thought I had the tools, but as I tried to use these tools, I kept feeling over and over like, I have no idea what I'm doing. This is not working. And let me just tell you a little bit about the things that I tried. When I realized that my daughter was struggling with both anxiety and depression, I tried everything. I mean, the first thing I tried was getting her into therapy. This proved to be an extraordinarily frustrating experience because where I live, there was up to a 6-month wait list for therapists for teenagers, especially ones that took our insurance. Which is a whole different issue that I'd love to address at some point, because now I don't think that that's something that I would worry about. If a therapist didn't take our insurance, that wouldn't be a barrier to me, because I know how therapists and insurance companies work together. So we couldn't find someone who was available without a 6-month wait list. There were programs out there, but they were either not at the time she could participate, or they were way too intense for her, or they just didn't have, like, I know we found one program we were very interested in, but it was all 18-year-olds, and my daughter was much younger than that. And so that was something that wasn't a good fit for her. When we finally did get through that waiting period, we did find a group that she could meet with. We found a therapist for her, and it was really interesting because one of the critical components when finding a therapist that will be helpful to you is the relationship between the two of you. That therapeutic alliance is what it's called, is critical in order for growth to happen. In fact, it often doesn't matter what type of therapist a counselor is. It doesn't matter what type of theory they follow or what type of therapy is done. As long as that therapeutic alliance is there, it's going to be helpful. And we really struggled to find someone that my daughter felt connected to. We went through, I think, 3 different therapists before she was like, yep, this is my person. And it was so amazing, but then it proved to be incredibly frustrating, because I think just a couple months later, that therapist let us know that due to some changes in our state laws, she was going to go back and become a school counselor, so she'd no longer be providing therapy. And it just felt like we were back to square one again. In addition to that, even though we had found someone that my daughter connected with, it was still just an hour a week. She would come out of that and tell me things she had learned, and I would work with her to try to apply those strategies. And we bought workbooks at home, and we would work through these workbooks together, trying to figure out strategies that she could use to overcome her anxiety and depression. And again, I just kept running into that feeling like this is not working. And I actually made a really extreme decision that may not be available to all moms. I decided, I was a teacher at the time, have my master's in education, but I decided to go back to school to get my counseling degree. I thought, here I'm, seeing all these strategies that my daughter is to apply. Perhaps if I understood them from the position of a counselor, I could help her differently. So I started getting my master's degree. And again, I ran into over and over again, this is not working. I would watch her going to a therapist, and I would watch her trying her best to apply the strategies. And she received diagnoses, and she tried different medications, and it just continued to feel like there's not that sense of relief. There's not that sense of hope that I wanted from all of this. And I think at some point I reached that point where I was like, you know what, this is just going to be our life, and we'll eventually get through it. Now, as I was involved in my master's program, I was in an addictions class. I was learning about all kinds of different addictions, to alcohol, to shopping, to drugs, to gambling, all of those things. And we had to do a personal project on addictions. While I was doing my research on this, I started getting ads for different podcasts. And I started using them as some of my resources as I was writing papers about addictions. One of these was, or a series of these ads were ads on life coaches who help people overcome addictions to drinking, addictions to food. And they referred to it as over drinking or overeating. And I was just curious. So I started listening to these, and I started using those as resources for my papers. And I realized that a whole group of these coaches had come from a specific life coach life coach school that's called the Life Coach School, and started investigating that a little bit more. Long story short, there, I ended up starting to work with a life coach initially just because I wanted to lose weight and I wanted to change my relationship with alcohol. I knew that while I didn't consider myself an alcoholic, I knew that I was drinking more than I wanted to. And so I just wanted to understand this process of working with a life coach to do that. And through that process, my entire life changed. And it had a magical impact. It had a profound impact on the way things were going with my daughter's mental health. What I started noticing, and I don't even know that I started noticing it right away, but looking back, I can see that as I began learning the strategies to lose weight and to change my relationship with alcohol, which my daughter certainly does not need help in either of those areas, but the strategies were universal. And as I began applying them to my own life, her mental health began improving. And I just want to talk about why that is. So the reason this occurred is, again, because even though I was learning about the topics of weight loss and about stopping over drinking, I was applying strategies that you can apply to anything. I was learning about how to uncover thought and behavioral patterns in my life that were affecting those areas, but were also impacting every aspect of my life. Things that I didn't even realize were there, thoughts that existed in my mind, thought patterns that existed in my mind that drove how I showed up in situations, that drove how I operated in situations. As I worked with a life coach to uncover those things, I gained confidence. I gained a feeling of empowerment. And it started to feel like, you know what, there's really nothing in life that I can't address with these strategies. That resulted in me approaching parenting very differently. It resulted in me approaching my daughter's struggles very differently because I felt so empowered. I felt like I can do anything. I felt like there is no problem that is too big for these concepts. And as I began talking about my own problems with that kind of confidence, it rubbed off on my kids. And here's why. There's a function that we have in our brains called mirror neurons, meaning that we basically emulate whoever we're spending time with. And it happens below our awareness. We're not even aware all the time that this is going on. And so while I was spending all this time trying to teach my daughters that I learned in my classes or practice these strategies that I was learning in workbooks with my daughter, it was helpful. But once I began to apply them to my own struggles, I began to talk differently and show up differently and interact differently and approach my own issues with a different kind of energy. And that began to impact how my daughter showed up due to those mirror neurons. And those mirror neurons are just one small factor in the overall reason that this occurred because of the way our brains work. But I love thinking about that because it provides such a good metaphor for why what I ultimately created, the Mentally Strong Mom Method, why it works so incredibly effectively. So as I began talking about my own mental health struggles, and I talked about the way I looked at anxiety differently, the way I looked at depression differently, as I began processing my emotions in front of my kids rather than considering my emotions an emergency that needed to be acted on. As I began living in transformation and then talking about that to my kids, not in a teachery or coachy kind of way, but just sharing with them, this is what's going on with mom. And my mind's blown because I've overcome this, 20-year-long issue with just changing how I think about it. As I began to share that with them, they were able to look at their own issues from that same kind of frame, from that same paradigm. So they experienced a similar paradigm shift to the one I was experiencing. They began to approach their own problems with confidence and know that they could just dig into their thoughts and start to understand that they were operating from a certain frame of mind that impacted how they showed up, who they were, that impacted how they reacted, that drove their actions, that was creating the results they were getting in life. And it was so incredible to watch because I would hear, it's the same way that sometimes we as moms hear our own mother's words come out of our mouths. I would hear my words come out of their mouths, and I would know, this is amazing. I set out to lose weight and to feel more in control of my drinking, and it's impacting their mental health. And so it wasn't long before I became certified as a life coach and began coaching other people. I started out coaching people on weight loss and on over drinking. I started coaching people on making the money they wanted to in their business. I started coaching people on getting organized in their lives. And I started hearing similar things from clients. I came to you for business coaching, but it's having a profound impact on my kids. I came to you for to talk to you about my own anxiety, but it's beginning to impact my kids. And what started then is I began out coaching. I started working with kids and teenagers, and I loved it. I learned so much from them, and I am constantly amazed at the kind of growth that I was able to see because they would work so hard to apply these strategies. But I had kind of that same feeling that I did when my daughter was attending therapy. These kids have an hour a week with me. They can learn strategies and they can go back and tell mom about them, and it's great. And they're working so hard. But imagine if mom knew these strategies, if mom was applying them to her own life. So not only did the kids benefit from having mom as that pillar of strength to provide support that they needed, but also they were benefiting because of those mirror neurons. They were benefiting because they would begin to emulate mom's language and mom's way of approaching issues without even knowing it. It meant that moms wouldn't have to sit and teach. Moms wouldn't have to sit and take on the coaching role. All they had to do was begin addressing the issues in their own life, and it was going to affect their kids' mental health. And so I started playing with this idea a little bit. And it had such a profound impact. As I taught moms, rather than going into this teacher mindset where you're trying to pass these strategies on to your kids, what if you take the approach of living in transformation and telling your kids stories? What if you take the approach of, instead of teaching them a strategy, they get to witness you using it? Not only will they have the mirror neuron impact, not only will they have a more mentally strong mom to provide the support that they need, but they will also see someone using this successfully. That has another impact on our brain, because when we truly believe in the success of a strategy, our brain is more open to it. It's more open to applying something to our own lives. It provides a little bit of motivation that can sometimes be the push that's necessary to try something. And not only will they have that benefit, but also, mom, you will have an experiential knowledge. You will have viscerally felt what it feels like to experience transformation from implementing these skills and strategies in your own life. So you'll be prepared for any pitfalls or any resistance that your child might experience at some point, because you'll have experienced it. You'll know how to talk to them differently because you're like, yep, when I was at that stage, when I went through that, when I was trying to change these things about myself, or when I was learning these new strategies, here's how I handled it. It means that as moms, we not only have this toolkit that we learn in Mentally Strong Moms, but we begin formulating our own toolkit with our own phrases and language, and it becomes something that the family knows about. There's several people in the Mentally Strong Mom method at the moment that have started that with their own kids, that have created their own language around their own tools that they use in their family right now in order to improve the mental wellness inside their family. And so it becomes this snowball effect of improving mom's mental health, which has the impact on the kids, which ultimately then improves mom's mental health more. Our brains begin feeding off of each other. We see each other's successes, and it motivates us to have even more success. And so that's the beauty of the Mentally Strong Mom method, that that as this growth occurs in mom, it has such an incredibly profound effect on our kids. And so when I got to see this happening in my own life, and when I began to see this happening in my client's life, I thought, moms, I began to feel so passionately about this. Moms, this is the way that we can go on to change the mental health, what's happening to the mental health of this upcoming generation. It can be a movement, moms, where we're improving what's going on in our lives and therefore learning the skills and strategies that our kids need to learn. And they're going to learn them because we are implementing them. We as moms are living in transformation. We're sharing our stories with our kids. We are speaking to them in a different way. We're showing up in a different way from a place of confidence and empowerment rather than powerlessness. And our kids begin to adopt that same kind of mentality because of mirror neurons, because of a variety of other ways our brains work. And that is how the Mentally Strong Mom method was born. It is rooted in, we build up mom's mental strength, and that applies to anything mom is struggling with. For me, it was weight loss, and it was wanting to change my relationship with alcohol. And I used that shell to learn the skills and strategies that I needed to learn. And then I had, again, not only the mental strength to handle my daughter's mental health struggles, because like I said, the danger is that it can become about our own emotions when we find out that our child is struggling. So not only do I have that mental strength, but I have the experiential knowledge of the skills and strategies that I want my child to learn to manage their own mental health. In addition to that, I have the support from the method, from inside the program. We have a group of moms that works together that is all focused on raising mentally strong kids, and we support each other in that growth. We talk about the different strategies that we are each using. We talk about how that's impacted our kids, and it is so incredibly motivating to hear the stories from other moms about the impact learning these strategies is having on their own lives. So the Mentally Strong Moms method is based on those 3 pillars: strength, strategies, and support. We build up our mental strength, we learn the strategies, and we get the support we need to raise mentally strong kids. And so that is how that method began to form, and I'm so excited about it. It's opening in 2 weeks, March 22nd. If it's something that you believe you might be interested in, you can just jump over to chat.ashley.tube, which is where you can sign up for a free strategy session. And that strategy session, during that strategy session, we will talk about the Mentally Strong Mom method in the program, but it kind of takes a back seat to what we do talk about during the strategy call, which is your unique situation, which is your unique struggles, your child's unique struggles. And we collaboratively come up with a plan for you moving forward. If that happens to be the Mentally Strong Mom method, then we get you enrolled in that. If it happens to be something else, then we figure out what that is. But regardless, you will walk away from the call with learning a new strategy that will apply to your unique situation and that will help your child move towards that ultimate goal of mental wellness. So I'd love to talk to you. If you think that you might even just be a little bit interested in the Mentally Strong Mom method, please reach out and hop on one of those calls by going to chat.ashley.tube and booking one of the hour times on there. Because even if you do not, there's absolutely no obligation to sign up for the program. But even if you don't end up ultimately signing up, it helps me so much because I get to know what's going on out there. I get to know what's happening with moms and with teens and with kids. I get to understand what your struggles are better so I can better serve my community. So it's so helpful for me to get to talk to you, even if you don't end up signing up for the program. But you also walk away with something that will be helpful to you. So I'd love to chat with you there. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put that in any of the comments, depending on what platform you're watching from, or you can still use that link to jump on the call if you have questions. So I'll just give a second as I'm wrapping up to see if there's any questions or comments that come up. Otherwise, I will be back here next week, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, every single week for Ask Ashley Live. You can always come on, get coached. You can come on, ask questions. You can come on and just tell me about your breakfast if that's what you'd like to do. Or you can submit questions during the chat. You can submit questions in the chat during Ask Ashley Live. So I hope to see you on my schedule after you go to chat.ashley.tube and book one of the free strategy sessions, or here next week again at Wednesday, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time.